First off,
Thanks.
20 years?
20 years.
That's a long time.
Some would say it's a long time, but it flies by. Right,
Yeah.
it goes pretty quick.
Okay. So you were the first one that we that brought about this idea.
Sure.
So it was probably like years ago. It's not like, hey, I'm retiring, you should interview me now.
Right.
It was a long time coming where you expressed a little bit of frustration or maybe even like disappointment with how some of like the exit emails were going with those
Sure.
that were retiring. And I think part of those frustrations were like maybe they were too short, maybe people weren't even reading the emails. Maybe even some of it wasn't even capturing like who that person was and what all they have done for the department, right?
True. There's a lot to that. So one is technology's evolved right over time. So we have all this equipment. We spent a lot of money for it. Two, guys have a lot more to offer than just one sentence of email, right? And sometimes you can't articulate what you want in just words. So some people have the ability to do that, and they have a real lengthy email. And I think people nowadays want to listen and see people and hear people, right? Instead of just reading one email. So I thought this is a good opportunity, and maybe some of the new people that are going to retire or want to do some stuff will jump on board too, right? I hope this is not the only one that we're able to do this with.
Yeah. You could be.
I could be, but I
On the
hope not.
exit interview.
I hope I'm not the only one.
It's so horrible we never do
That
it.
could happen. That could happen. Take that stuff, send that stuff back. So that wouldn't be the first time.
I think that is huge though. I don't think we capitalize like on our legacy.
Sure.
And so we have a lot of retirees that have good information, and unfortunately once they're gone, they're gone.
Right.
We rarely see them checking back in.
Sure.
A lot of that is our fault as a department, I think,
Agreed.
reaching out. And
Agreed.
then a lot of it is when some people are retired, sometimes they really are done and
Sure.
they just disappear. So
Just-
we'll see what happens, but at least we could capture a little bit of you on video.
Right.
So I have a few canned questions and we can
Okay.
just kind of go off from there.
Sounds good.
Let me see. First one I think I want to start out with is why did you choose the fire department, the fire service as your career?
So I always wanted to be a firefighter ever since I was a little kid that I can always remember. My father was a volunteer fireman, and back then you could take your kids with you to the station. We would go on calls. I mean, I was like 4 or 5 years old. You're riding a big fire truck down to even little fires, brush fires, structure fires. You kind of get the itch, right? It's in your blood. It's in who you are. I started in the volunteer fire service like in my own. I think I was like 14 or 15. And first structure fires, going to MBAs on the highway. So I've always wanted to do it. In high school, I tried to do everything I could to become a professional firefighter. Well, a big goal in life is at the end of my 20 years, and I was just telling my kids that, like, I've accomplished all the goals with my retirement. This will be the last goal that I've set as a kid. So now I need to create new goals, right? I need to start new goals, what I've done. So when you're a teenager, like, hey, I want to buy a house, I want to get married, I want to have kids, I want a career. Well, I did all those, and this is the culmination of those goals as a teenager. So it's kind of interesting to see that come full circle. You don't see that back then, right?
Yeah. So where do you think you're going now?
Now, what I want to do in retirement, so my main goal is my motto is Pura Vida, right? So I got that from you and got back from Costa Rica. Maybe not to that so much extent, but to start living life a little bit more.
Yeah.
So whenever you love the fire service, I really did as a kid, and I enjoyed it, and I lived for work a lot, right? So I wanted to be here. I didn't want to miss that run. I didn't want to miss that job. And now that's over, and now I want to see my kids play sports. I want to go to their activities. I want to do more of that stuff. I want to go camping, hiking. I want to be in the outdoors. I want to live the life now, right? I've done that part, so it's time to move on to something different, another
Nice.
challenge.
That's good. I definitely have preached that to some of our lieutenant academies, is that there's different levels of service, right?
Sure.
And all of it depends on your personality, your willingness to sacrifice, and what you view the fire service as.
Correct.
And I try to relate that to someone's retirement. And there's been a few retirements that I've been privileged to go to where you see half of the guys that are there like bawling their eyes out.
Right.
And it's like guys that would never cry. You
Sure.
would never see them even flinch when it comes to pain or anything. And then
Right.
all of a sudden the retirement, they're completely crying.
Right.
And the way that I like to, and thinking back on those guys and their careers, they're the ones that sacrificed time, money, energy, their own body, definitely like their family sacrificed because of
Right.
it. And it was like ultimate servitude because they are putting aside some of those pura vida things
Sure.
in order to better the department. And like, yeah, you could serve as like, I'm just here and I'm going to be a good firefighter while I'm
Mhm.
here. Or it could be, I'm here for 20 years and I'm going to give every part of myself for those 20 years.
Sure.
So I think it's pretty cool to hear that, like, I definitely do feel that you are on that spectrum of like, yes, you served in a variety, in a multitude of ways. And now like that service is over. Now it's a different way of living your life.
Correct.
Which is pretty cool. And it doesn't matter, right? Like,
Sure.
not one is better than the other.
No,
like
it's
some
just
guys
who
are
you
very
are.
good at like, well, no, I'm still gonna camp and travel
Right.
and
Well,
focus on my family,
it's
and then when
important.
I'm here, I'll be a good firefighter.
Right.
And that's absolutely good. But I think it's more your personality type. It's
It
like,
is.
no, if I'm in, like,
I'm
I'm
in.
all in.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
yeah, you were definitely that guy. Obviously, since like 14 years old, that's a long time.
Yeah.
What are you, like 68 now?
Pretty close. 42. I'm getting up there. yeah. I'm inching there. Let me tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I think this will be a good segue. What was the favorite part of the job for you?
As you leave and you start reflecting on your career, right? And you start thinking about those things, you know, you start
Yeah.
thinking about like, man, what was my absolute favorite part of the job?
Yeah.
What am I, when I'm gone later on, what am I gonna miss, or what do I miss now? And honestly, the thing that I miss the most, and I wish I could do every day,
Mm-hmm.
is code 3, pull up to a fire, and have that moment of seeing that structure fire and figuring out what am I gonna do and how am I gonna accomplish this task.
Mhm.
Nothing beats that pressure in that moment of trying to figure out what you're gonna do in that job. Like, that cannot be replicated for me in any other way.
Yeah.
So the thing that I'm gonna absolutely miss the most, and if you could like, hey, you can do this every day, that would be that moment. Just, you're pulling up, everybody's looking at you, your crew, and people out there,
Yeah.
and you're gonna go get some. To me, that's what I'm gonna miss the most, by far.
When you envision that, are you in the LT seat? Or are you in the driver's seat, firefighter seat?
You know,
Or does it change?
It doesn't. It's just, I see at that moment, the crew, although you have your lieutenant, I spend most of my time on the truck, you're very specialized in what you do, right? You have
Yeah.
very singular tasks. So when I'm not like ever like guiding a crew, and I'm not just doing one thing. It's more of the team effort thing. Like, we're all, as that group, we're gonna do it, right? We're gonna do good on this job. We're gonna exercise all the training that we've had and we've done, and we're gonna knock this out. We're gonna have a positive outcome. Every time we're gonna have a positive outcome.
Yeah.
So I don't see myself in a singular role because they're each important, right?
Right.
Just in that moment, I'm a firefighter, not the rank,
Yeah. You're just doing the job.
just doing the job.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
That's a good answer.
Yes.
Most people would be like, well, driving the truck or hanging out with the guys, which are good answers. But it's like, yeah, that is a good
Each.
moment right there. That very like,
Yeah.
that pull up,
Right.
strategize, decide what you're going to start doing,
Sure.
act.
Act.
Yeah.
Yes, that's gonna be the thing that I miss.
That made me think of, I think I've told you this story and I'm pretty sure you remember it. But I was truck 1 driver at a furniture storage building
Okay.
fire, and pulled up his first truck on scene. And I pulled up willy-nilly, still hadn't really thought about apparatus staging. I think I was
Sure.
like 1 year as a driver, and just pulled up with the truck front end facing the building. We got out, did our search. I come out. You guys also responded. You were the truck 4 driver. We get out, we're done with the fire. BC Brinkerhoff is doing his hot wash, gets everyone together. And then one of the big key things that he loved about the scene was how well the truck was staged. And he points to my truck. My truck was all of a sudden with the rear facing the building and with all of the scene lights lighting the building up. And he was like, this is how you do it. Like, this is such a great job. Taking care of the scene, lighting up the scene, staging the apparatus just in case we have to use the aerial. Awesome job. Way to go. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't think I did all that. Like, I was pretty apt and I don't remember doing any of that. I think I just got off and ran inside. And then you came later on and you were like, you're welcome. You're
Right.
welcome. Like, got in my face, like, you're welcome. And it was huge because it not only taught me a lesson on like slow down, stage your apparatus correctly, do it right, but also taught me like be humble even when you're good at the job. And like you definitely could have jumped in and like thrown me under the bus and bagged on me in front of the whole group and been like, he didn't do that, like I did that for him. But you didn't do any of that. You just pulled me aside, let it be known that it was you that did it, right? But also gave me a good lesson on like, nope, you're taking care of me, taking care of the scene and doing it right. And so yeah, I really appreciate that, and it still sticks in my head. It was just a great Chente moment where I was like, you got me, and
I guess
that was
that's
really
kind
good.
of like my teaching style, right? Like, I'll tie you personally, straight up, you know what I mean? I'll make fun of you in some type of form. But at the end of the day, there's a bigger picture, especially on scenes like that, right? And you can learn some things, and you don't have to do that in front of everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I think people learn that and appreciate that in the long run a lot better. And, you know, being a truck driver was probably one of my most favorite jobs that I had in the organization. I really enjoyed that, you know what I mean? Now, I'll go on record to say that I was pretty decent at it, you know
Pretty
what I
good,
mean? I was
pretty
pretty
good.
decent at it,
Yeah.
But I chased Gabe for a long time doing that, and that helps, right? Whenever you have somebody that you can pattern yourself at and have that friendly competition, yeah, you know what I mean? It definitely helps. In the organization, that helped. And when I was a firefighter, all the way up to battalion chief, you have those people, right? And I think it's better for the organization in the long run.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. Becoming Gabe's driver, you were already the guy, and there already was that competition between you and him. And definitely more back then, it was like truck 1 versus truck 4.
Sure.
And like, what are they doing? What are we
Right.
doing kind of thing. And especially when we had like the truck academies back then, we were always racing and watching each other to see what was what.
What was the time, right?
Yeah, I definitely felt that competition, and that was
Yeah,
cool because
it
it did keep things moving forward and kept us motivated too. So
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that was awesome.
those are good.
And Gabe was always watching you too.
Yeah.
He might not admit it, but
Nah,
he
he's
was.
not going to.
But yeah, I think you were very good at that job. You were one of the top truck drivers in my mind. So yeah. What advice would you give to a newer member just starting their career?
That's a good question. And my couple things. One is you can make this job what you want of it, especially within this organization. You choose. So there are people that get things quicker than you. There are people that advance faster than you, but it all predicate on where they're at in life, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to end that way, and I'm a perfect example of that, right? So you can choose to be the guy that grinds the system the whole time and goes against the grain and tries to poke holes in everything, right? Or you can grow and advance and have influence on all those things and put in motion some of the things that you really want to do. And for me, that took a long time to learn. And that was an internal moment though.
Yeah.
That was really like an internal moment. Like, not to say that people didn't try, right? But it took me to decide like, no, this is not what I want to do. This is the person I want to be. And the other thing that I would say, and I know this is we just talked technology world, podcasts, videos, but you have to read. There's a lot about the fire service and leadership that are in books and old books, and they still translate to today, and I didn't do that when I was young. I just didn't have that. I didn't have that growth in me. I didn't have that vision. And now I'm even reading a book currently that Sean gave me about Rescue 2 in the city of New York. And I'm like, this is such a great book. I wish I would have had this book 15 years ago. right? And I just didn't have that in me, though. And somebody could have gave it to me, and I probably wouldn't even have read it.
Yep.
So if I could give anybody advice is it doesn't have to end the way you start. Continue reading, continue growing, right? And it takes do a self-evaluation on how you are. Whenever something's not going your way, first person you need to look at is yourself, not everybody else around you. And then from there, go from there. And then when things are going your way, look at yourself and see who else you're bringing with you. That's another thing. So it just ain't about you. It's never is. As you grow in the organization, the more responsibility you have, you need to bring people with you. And if you're not bringing people with you, then you're doing a disservice to yourself and the organization. You have to do that. You have to do that. You're not leaving anything for anybody if you're not bringing people with you.
Yeah. Okay, so if you, all right, so you, I think you kind of referenced it earlier where, yeah, you were kind of, you could be that guy that's poking holes in the game and having a lot of fun, and I've definitely been thinking about this when we agreed to do this video, is like, how do I pose this question and make it to where I could get the answer that I want out of you. And
Sure.
It's like, so you started your career, not even started, I would say midway through your career, you were notoriously known as the guy that would stir the pot.
Sure.
You and a few other upstanding individuals.
Yeah.
And you guys were very well known for that.
Sure.
And there were some people in the department that hated even roving over to your station or your company because they knew it was going to be a very hard tour.
Sure.
I feel like I was fortunate. I never really felt that side of you, but I definitely witnessed it.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see right through it. I could see where it was like, it wasn't malevolent. Like you weren't trying to ruin somebody. You were just
Sure.
having fun.
Sure.
And that was how you joked.
Mm-hmm.
But some people took it the wrong way for sure.
Correct.
But then at some point there definitely did seem to be some sort of a shift in you where yes, you will still have fun and still cut up with the guys, but there was like what seemed to be like a higher, more global kind of purpose to what you wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Did that shift, was that like was that a quick internal kind of look and then all of a sudden it happened, or was this like a slow shift that happened with you?
A slow shift. It was probably about a 3-year shift.
Okay. When around would you say that was? Like, was it driver to lieutenant?
Driver to lieutenant. That mix. I was truck 4 driver, engine 1 lieutenant, truck 1 lieutenant. Those years are the really big years, right?
Yeah.
And when I look back, your assessment's right on, but you start looking like that comes with years of service too.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I was 4 years, 5 years. Well, once you start moving up driver, I was already about 10 years or more, and you end up being the one that had been there the longest service time. And when I look back, I'm like, I have more to offer to these guys. Like, they have great potential. I mean, there was guys on my crew. I mean, Chris Johnson, Anthony Brown, Jeremy Eckhart, very smart individuals. You know what I mean? That were.
Except for Jeremy.
And I'm like, do I take them down the path that I went, or do I steer them away from that stuff and try to show them some of the pitfalls, because they're too smart, too intelligent to fall into that trap that I did,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was a start. Then I come and they put me on an engine, right? And that's a humbling moment, you know what I mean? And Mike was senior man. I accept that 100%, no problem with that. But like, the competitive spirit in me is like, no, I need to get back there. Like, I need to get back there, but I can't get back there without doing a good job here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, and so you had to do good there, and you had to reinvent yourself and learn and expose yourself, right, a little bit, and take in stuff, and that happened. And then you get on the truck, right, and I had a really good crew, and then you come along, and Dave Wright comes along, and you guys are pushing me, and so you continually having to grow. Those are some of the best moments of my career, right? That transformation. And what's kind of cool about it is that it didn't happen. It didn't happen like that. And I'm glad it didn't happen like that, because it took people a while to realize that I had changed, right? And it took me a while to realize that I had changed, you know? So very important time in my career, you know what I mean, to those individuals that were there. And I never went back and asked any one of them, like, hey, what happened, right? Did you see, like, what happened? And maybe one day I will, right? What were some things that I could have expedited the process, or whatever the case may be. But I think it was for the better that it took that long, you know, it really did. And I started reading around that time.
Yeah.
So helped, for sure.
Yeah, it's been a good change, and not even just a change, like more like evolution, because I think you still have that like salty side to you where
Sure.
you will still, yeah, right, like
you can't get rid of that, right?
You'll still give people a hard time, and you'll still joke around, but you also have like all this other stuff that you're working on in the background, which just like every time I talk to you, like it blows me away, where it's like you see all the angles, and then you also see all the projections of what we could do with certain things. And that's just been really cool to see, because there really are, unfortunately, a lot of us stay on like one path, and then you just become stagnant towards the end of your career. So I think you are retiring in like this kind of a trajectory, rather than like, this guy's still here, like what is going on here? So
that's all in the
been
plan.
really cool
That's
to
all in the plan too, right? That's all in the plan too.
Go out on top.
This guy still had this much to go. He could have done a little bit better,
Yeah.
instead of leaving like, man, that guy was past his prime. So
Yeah.
that's all in the plan as well. Yeah, definitely.
Nice. And yeah, like you said, I think it does come with years of service. I think it swings both ways. There's some guys that come into this department, and they're so serious, and they're so like professional at all times, and like for me, I feel like I was in the middle of like the old dogs and the young dogs coming up, and it's like, yeah, I kind of missed the joking around that we did too, though. Like I missed the goofiness that we had in the station, and yeah, I think some of the guys are jumping in too early to try to be like, I'm the guy, like and it's like, yeah, you could also hang out with the guys and let it grow. Like the leaders will eventually become the leaders when it's time and when they're ready. Yeah, yeah, I like that. Man, there was something that came to mind with that one too. I'll get to it later. Okay, I don't know if this differs. You could probably just expand. Would you give any different advice or additional advice to new lieutenants coming in?
To new lieutenants, I would a little bit. One is listen to your crew and get to know them. So each individual in this organization functions a little bit different, and sometimes we're so busy trying to be who we are that we don't realize that the only like most of the good lieutenants have good crews.
Yeah.
Right? So we're like, hey, that lieutenant's a badass. Yeah, they're a badass because their crew is good, right? And sometimes you can make crews, right? That happens for sure. Sometimes a crew can make a lieutenant too.
Yeah.
That happens too. So I would say take your time and get to know who they are in their job, what their functions are, what they can do, tactical strategy, but also in life. Because you're here so long, especially with the 4896, is maybe one of your personnel likes to just listen to music, and that's what they need to do, and give them that time to regenerate, because if you don't, you're going to have a subpar performance all the time. And you got to build trust in them. And just when I was a company officer, a lot of times whenever you go to calls, you have to give them the latitude, right? Well, that latitude is not built on all the calls. That latitude is built in the station, right? And first, on the little things, right? Hey, can you do this task? Do I know you? Can I trust you? Can I send you to do that? Can I send you to do VES on your own? Well, yeah, because I've built trust with them all this other time. So the first 6 months, you don't have to go hardcore, have all this stuff, be that person, build trust, learn, listen to them. Then from there, it'll grow organically. It'll grow organically.
Yeah.
That would be
That's
my big
huge.
advice.
I think you tried to pound that into my head multiple times, and it took a while for me to get that.
Sure.
Again, there was the call, right, when I was brand new lieutenant. Lady got her hand caught in the tortilla
Right.
press, and I was behind the 8 ball pretty much the entire time on that call because it escalated so quickly,
Sure.
and I definitely wasn't prepared for that, I think, as I should have been. But there was a time, well, multiple times throughout that call where I was hands-on trying to do the task because I feel like that's just the way I am, right? Or
Right.
like you're that way too, like
Sure.
let me do it kind of thing.
Right.
And after the call, you and I were talking about it outside of the station, and I still remember you like kind of getting after me for being so hands-on. And I first took a little offense, like,
Sure.
I'm just trying to help, like, what do you mean? And then you definitely gave me the big picture of like, yeah, but what about your guys?
Mhm.
Like, you're no longer the guy that should have his hands on at all times. Like, maybe you need to, but not
Sure.
all the time, because now you're taking away that experience
Mhm.
from those people that need it.
Right.
And that was enlightening, man. Like, definitely changed my whole approach on how I lead my crew.
Sure.
Because at that time, yeah, I think I had like 2-year guys maybe, and you were like, what about the big calls that they need to experience and that they need to get confidence from,
Right.
and try their hands on with these skills that you've taught them. They're never going to get that experience if you're the one jumping in.
Right.
And you as a lieutenant, you need to back up and manage the scene, manage your people, manage resources. And that was huge. And I think it definitely helps your people, helps with the trust, helps them
Sure.
grow as firefighters, as drivers, if you can step back and show that you do trust them
Mhm.
to handle the job, whatever it is. And that's incredibly hard for me to do,
Sure.
but that was a huge lesson that you gave me. So yeah,
It's-
thank you for that.
You're welcome. And it's important because you're gonna get the call where you can't do it.
Yes.
You're gonna get the call where you can't do it alone. And you're gonna need them to step up and perform at a higher level than you've ever expected to. And I really think you have to have experiences to draw back on.
Mhm.
I really do think in the fire service that
Yeah.
that really helps you. And we have very capable people in our organization. If we just choose to let them be capable.
2 days before your retirement, you're still getting interrupted with business.
That's
Still
right.
doing it.
To the end, right? To the end, to the last hour.
All right, so you were on empowering your people because they might have to help you on the
Right.
big calls and be there and step up. And yeah, I think you're correct. We have more than enough competent individuals.
Sure.
We're pretty good, I think, at that selection process and developing our guys. We have really intelligent people, I think, in our department. And again, that's one lesson that you've been on me about quite a bit is, yeah, who are you bringing along with you?
It's important.
And that's one thing I've noticed with you is like, no matter like what position you're in or what project you're working on, you're still around like checking in on the people that you've made a connection with and like seeing how they're doing and then always asking them like what's next, like what's
Sure.
on their agenda, how can you help? And I think this is more a personal question, like how do you keep that in your head to still check in with everybody and not get this tunnel vision of like, well, I need to take care of this. Like you always make time for the other stuff.
Because the philosophy is bring people along, right? So you have intent, and the intent is like it's not about what I'm doing anymore.
Mhm.
It becomes about what they're doing, and as you grow in the organization and rank, you have the ability to give other people opportunities.
Yes.
So you want to make sure they're capitalizing on those opportunities, right? And because you don't just give opportunities out willy-nilly. You have to vet those people and vet those opportunities, right? And try to put them in areas where they will succeed. And so very much intentional, be like, well, where's this person at in this area? How are they doing? Where can I help? What do they need? They've met that goal. Do they need another opportunity? So it's very, very intentional, very conscious, right? And where they're at and what they're doing in their careers and their personal life and all that stuff. So yeah, that's...
Yeah. Do you feel like you have to be you personally have to be really intentional and purposeful when you do that, or do you feel like that's just part of your personality? 'Cause I think you are a really good people person. You're good at just conversing with whomever and finding a commonality with them.
Right.
How much effort does it take for you to conscientiously do that?
As I've gotten older, it's become a lot easier because I've found that if you're able to do that with somebody, they let their guard down and you can really get to the meat and potatoes on who they are and what they want to do.
Yeah.
So if you can break the ice and kind of just like, all right, we're just talking, right? Just like right now, we're just talking. It very much helps, and you can see where they want to go and what they want to do. And so that's something that I really, really worked on. I didn't always have that, right? My initial thought back in the day was to figure out what you wanted, but
exactly.
to use it against you to cut you up, right? And now I'm like, I can use that ability to see who you are, what you want to do, and empower you to go somewhere and do something with it, right? So that's the part that I really had to work on and move
huge.
along. And that's very intentional now. So sometimes whenever I'm talking to people in the CEO office, deal a lot with people at City Hall, right? And I'm like, did I maximize that time with that person? Did I really get to what they wanted, or did I listen to them? Was I intentful enough? Did I draw everything that I should have drawn out of that? No, I didn't. I need to go back. I need to do something different. I need to adjust with this person. You know, in this part, in this rank, it's all about people. Everybody thinks like, hey, you're just pushing paper. But people push paper. You know, and you have to get to know people and understand people and work with people so that paper can be pushed. So yeah, I've made it intentional, right, to try to maximize those performances.
So I've had these conversations with a few people, and some of the response has been, well, then that's manipulation.
So is it, or is it, a lot of people, the first thing is defensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you walk up to somebody, it's defense.
Yes.
And the way I see it, it's collaboration, not manipulation.
Right.
So
You're trying to find a common ground.
trying to find a common
so
ground.
that you could speak truthfully to that person.
Just like, well, I need to be, in the form of communication, there's a sender, receiver, and you have to be able to reciprocate, listen, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's the third part of that. So I have to be able to do that with you, you have to be able to do that with me. If you have that, if you don't have that, then nothing gets through. So I don't think it's more communication, collaboration. We have a goal we need to meet. I need to understand who you are to see how you work, and you need to understand me how I work so we can get this job done. That's the way I feel.
Nice. Okay, so you described like the best part of your job. What has been the hardest part of your job?
The hardest part of the job is finding the right mix of people to work with. That's the hardest part. So whenever you're so different, and that includes myself, right? When you exclude yourself, when you pull yourself back and you're not with that crew. So this is very much a family environment too. Especially I'm assuming, because I didn't work 40 in 96, that it's even amplified to that extent. When you regress in that family environment, those days can be long and hard. And I had some of those days as a young, because that's who I was, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of finding common ground with people, trying to understand people, those time between calls can be rough here. And you need to be able to get out of your shell, sit at the kitchen table, sit at the end of the beaver tail, be in the bay, be with people to understand who they are, and that'll help you grow. Because if not, isolating yourself and being like, nah, I'm just gonna play video games, right? Mm-hmm. Or I'm just gonna go to my room and listen to music, or I'm just gonna sit at the kitchen table all day and by myself, or watch TV all by myself. Those make for long days and hard times, in my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. You need to be able to find that common ground with people. So definitely for sure, but that's self-made.
Yes.
The organization, the world, your crew is not doing that to you. You are doing that to yourself, and I want to get that across. It's not them, it's you.
Yeah.
You're making it hard for yourself in that portion.
Yeah, you've been good at that too, even as a BC stuck in an office just pining away. You're still coming in like early in the morning and then getting to the kitchen table and talking to the guys, which I'm definitely gonna miss. I think those are always good moments right there.
Sure.
One thing that I feel comes and goes in waves is that kitchen table.
Right.
Some of like my best moments as a firefighter for sure, as a lieutenant, have been at that kitchen table. I think that's where I've learned a lot, grown a lot, learned about people. You solve the world's problems, right, on that kitchen
That's
table. You've always been great at the kitchen table. Do you share like the same sentiments when it comes to that?
I do. So like, and like I said, when you reflect on your career, nothing's off limits on the kitchen table. You can solve the biggest problems, the biggest heartaches, and throughout my career, people have talked to me about some of the hardest times in their personal life, in their career, what they're doing, what they couldn't do, and some of the best moments of their life were all shared at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
And if there's anything, the culture of this organization, which I hope doesn't ever get lost, is that ability to discuss stuff at the kitchen table, whether it's over food, over anything. And honestly, whenever you look and you look at the senior staff at the senior staff level, right, and we're all sitting there in a big room, and I almost think like, no, we need to kick the crew out of station 2 and sit at the kitchen table and discuss this matter, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say kick out, but like, this is an important decision. That's who we are. We all, everybody in this organization, sat at that kitchen table, and we made those decisions. And I think sometimes, if I had to change something,
that's a great
If I
idea.
could change something, so Chief Smith, if you're watching,
Yeah, I love
if
that.
you ever have this big decision, I
Break
didn't
bread.
get to it, go station, break bread. The crew there, please allow that
Yeah.
the senior staff to spend an hour there at your kitchen table and put a pot of coffee on and make some of those decisions, because I think it's not so formal, and everybody has a place at that kitchen table.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, Chief Smith,
yeah.
break bread.
Break bread.
That's good. We have a new Station 3. I'm sure they can make that happen.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, so jumping back, so again, you were notorious for being one of the harder guys to. You knew that you were going to be exposed if you were around Chente. Like it was just going to happen, for good or bad. Like
Sure.
I think for good. Like yeah, you're going to expose my shortcomings. Like yes, please, because there are a lot of people that were around sometimes that see those same shortcomings, but they never say anything. And it's like, that doesn't help me grow. So again, you were notorious for having one of the harder, more disciplined fire academies, of being in charge of one of the harder ones. Probably the hardest, I think. And like when you talk to everybody, probably the hardest fire academy that we've had, when it comes to like just someone always in your face, someone always holding the line and reminding you of the line. So I know you, and of course talking to you, like that was intentional and purposeful.
It was.
Can you expand on that? Because I don't think that intention and purpose has bled through for the whole department on why you did that.
The main focus of that was for the cadets to grow for the future, to band together. So I wanted them to be a family forever, right? To the end of their career, because growing up in the organization, there's a couple of things that happens. Is during that time, you kind of hang out together and you do things together because you're bleeding together and you're paying together. But I wanted to expand that. I wanted to crank that pressure up so much that they wouldn't have any choice but to rely on each other for the rest of their careers, and hopefully after, right? Whether it was personal or not. Because one thing, as you grow in this organization, what happens is, I think one of our miscues is our failure to peer pressure each other into doing good things, right? So you're talking about shortcomings, and as Academy brothers, we never pointed out to our Academy brother. Yet we build that bond in the beginning. We don't maximize it as an organization long term. So with my Academy brothers, very much notorious Academy, maybe I should have stepped in and helped some of them, and maybe some of them should have stepped in and helped me, and we didn't do that. And I wanted to create a culture to where they would. So by creating discipline and creating a single focus of like, this guy, why is this guy? And we need to all work together to overcome this one person. And not just me, but that was the whole cadre. So we shrunk the cadre down to a certain amount of people, very select people, for a reason, right? We limited their access. So closed campus, I didn't let them go to lunch. That was purposeful, because nothing brings you together like eating a bologna sandwich at lunch.
Yeah.
Because if you leave, then you have no community, right? You have no togetherness, and I think that was the main reason why I wanted to do it. And that's where some of the things, like no phones. We in this day and age, we didn't allow phones, only on breaks. And they would be forced to talk to each other.
Yeah.
They would have to learn who they are. So some of the things I talked to you about in the crew, a setting, right, where the LT was doing, I was trying to replicate that in the cadet form, right?
Yeah.
And for a lot of things, I think I accomplished it. The guy, I sat down with some of them for lunch the other day, and they're still hanging out on their personal life. They're still doing things together, and I hope that continues. You know, I think that's important, and I think we need to build on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely created a good group as well. At the end of the day,
Sure.
they were strong all around, which is good. I think that speaks to kind of your setup, and like I hope this is derived from our conversation, is the intention behind everything.
Sure.
That's the foundation. Is
That's
like,
the foundation.
here's the intention. Things aren't just done like,
Really,
well, I'm just gonna wing it.
No.
Like, no, there's no winging it. Like, especially with something like that, and it's like, I'm gonna create an atmosphere. Like,
Right.
yes, it's important for everyone to be together and eat lunch, because the second one person breaks, like, you break that atmosphere. Like,
Correct.
same thing with the kitchen table. Like,
Right.
you don't stay at the kitchen table, you break the atmosphere.
Correct.
Like, you just stay on your phone or playing video games.
Right.
You're breaking that atmosphere that
Correct.
could potentially create something really amazing.
Right.
And like, that's really cool that everything had this like intention and this purpose behind it to develop people.
I did.
And yeah, I hope that's what people get from this, is like, that's what I see in you, is there's purpose now in how you're going about like your everyday things.
Correct.
And then that has laid out success to you getting even to battalion chief, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
That helped me. That's a byproduct, though, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
just
exactly. That
that's
wasn't
just-
the goal.
No,
was the
that's just a
byproduct.
byproduct of all the other things that came along with it, right? But yeah, very much intentional in that account. I mean, everything that we did in that academy, right, was for that purpose, is for them to be at the year 25 and still be the best family that they could be.
Mhm.
That's the thing. Is for them to make each other better. That's the expectation I leave for them. Is that when one of them's slacking, one of them not their superior, not anybody else in the organization, but one of their academy brothers or sisters tells them you're slacking. Whenever they do good, it should be one of their academy brothers or sisters that tell them you're doing good.
Mhm.
If they need help, it should be one of their academy brothers or sisters that help them out, no, regardless of rank, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? To build that family atmosphere, and from that, it'll grow.
Mhm.
It'll grow over time, right? It'll grow.
Yeah, that's good. Any regrets that you have?
Sure. You know what I mean? In the sense of that I wish, but yes, in the fact that I wish I would have learned the things that I learned earlier, right? I think I could have expanded that a lot quicker. Station 4 had rookies come through it all the time. You know what I mean? Every rotation we had countless academies, countless people come through there, but it didn't happen.
and it didn't happen for a reason. So I'm very much a man of destiny, right? And this is the way it's gonna go in your life, and it happened for that way for a reason. And at the end of the day, it's how you finish.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have, okay, so this is your email. Do you have any, where's the potential in our department, and what do you think we can do to get to that potential? What are, because I know you've already been projecting where we could go with this and with that. What are the main projections that you were kind of shooting for to see the department go towards?
Well, the department's starting to finger off, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's starting to finger off into different realms. So you have, when you look at some of the prevention sites, that's growing. That's not gonna stop. When you listen to city council, MIH, CIT, that's growing. And ops, guess what? It's growing too. So as members of the organization, there's gonna be opportunities. And they might not be the opportunity that you exactly want at the right time, but those opportunities are gonna help you grow into be a bigger, better person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would take advantage of those opportunities and go to some of those positions, some of those spots. And one of the things that helps you the most is getting out of your comfort zone, right? Getting out of your comfort zone. And that's what helped me grow quicker than anything that I've ever done before. Yeah, I could have stayed on the truck and done really, really good. Going to the engine as a lieutenant, guess what that helped me do? I was out of my comfort zone, something I really didn't want to do, but it helped me grow exponentially, that much faster. So I see these things coming for the organization. There's going to be a little bit of change. You have 3 battalion chiefs leaving right now, so there's going to be some change. So leadership, the ones that are stepping into that, you need to push the current battalion chiefs, whoever's stepping into those roles. So Gabe, JD, you know what I mean, Tibor, I hope they push the battalion chiefs in the DC to step up to the next level and grow that much faster. That needs to happen. And the same with the lieutenants. You need to continue to push. One of the fallouts from our organization is that we move so fast, we're so progressive, that we never follow up. So we implement programs, we implement things, and we never come back and check the data or check with the people to say, is that working? Do we need to modify that? Do we need to change that? And sometimes we do, but it's way after it's gone too far. Mm-hmm. It's gone too far. Yeah. So I think that's honestly in our organization, our biggest problem. And it's a first world problem, right? To have that ability to do some of those things. But we're implementing a lot of new systems in our organization, and we just jump to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. Somebody needs to sit back and be like, whoa, whatever program you're in. I'm not saying just chief, but these are all broken down. There's battalion chiefs, there's lieutenants, there's firefighters that are all part of this process. Whoa, is this really working? Is this meeting the intent? The other thing is that our primary mission is to run calls. So when I first got in the organization in 2001, the older guys, they're complaining about the amount of calls they're running. Fast forward 20 years, guys are complaining about the calls they're running. If we don't do that, then we don't exist. That's our primary mission. And sometimes the calls are great, and sometimes they're not so great. But that's just life, right? Sometimes we don't get all the exact things that we want, but those little calls build character in you. That's the way I see it. Yep. So don't forget, the primary mission is to run calls. Somebody's running a call every day, and rightfully so, right? Mm-hmm. That's our main thing, and it should be.
Yeah. Awesome. Anything else?
I just want to say that, reiterate that you make what you want in this organization. So it's not up to anybody else, right? You capitalize on opportunities. If you see one of your academy brothers or sisters not meeting expectations, tell them. Nobody else is going to tell them. You need to tell them. be able to speak up. You can speak up. Go back and review things and make sure they're working for you. And we're running calls and have fun. Have fun. This job is great. There's no other job like it. You know what I mean? Where you can come in for 24, 48 hours, sit at the kitchen table, eat one of the best meals that anybody's ever made, and some of the worst meals that anybody's ever made.
Yeah.
And go help somebody all within the span of your morning coffee.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anywhere else. It doesn't happen anywhere else. And so enjoy those moments, man. Take advantage of those moments, because they're gone in a heartbeat. I remember sitting at Station 4 with Gabe. I don't think his daughter was even born yet. Thinking about, man, we have 20 years to go, you know? And it's here.
Yeah.
And it's here. And it went by fast. So impact people positively. Give people opportunities. Those are my closing statements.
Cool. Thank you, man.
You got it, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.